Assalamu alaikum. I hope you're well. Today, inshallah, we are going to talk about horses. And it's not just horses we are going to talk about. We are going to talk about the legends of man and horse, how man and horse interacted with each other, and the legendary characters, centaurs, half man, half horse. Now, you'd be wondering, what has that got to do with the Quran? And the answer is, today we are doing Surah number 100, Al-Adiyat. And this surah is all about horses and men and how it has affected the human civilization. Allah is presenting horses as a witness of man's ingratitude. And the first 5 verses of the surah, surah number 100, they highlight a part of human civilization and history which has been ignored so far. And more evidence is being unearthed, especially in the Saudi Arabian Peninsula since 2010, which is showing what a dramatic change occurred in the human history and human technology with the introduction of the horse. Before we start the surah, let's talk about human history. There are a few things in human history which you could call landmarks from where the trajectory of human civilization changed incredibly. The very first is invention of the fire, or rather discovery of the fire. And if you see all the historians and the anthropologists and people who have done research on human civilization, they'll tell you that discovery of fire was a main landmark which changed the human civilization. The second thing which experts talk about is discovery of the wheel. And the wheel is very important. Once we discovered it, we made carts and we made carriages. And in future, those carts and carriages became trucks and cars. The whole concept of vehicles came from invention of the wheel. And the wheel was used for many other things. It was used as cogs in machines. So our mechanization, industrial revolution would not have happened if we would have not have discovered the wheel. Our water mills and windmills, they have wheels in them. Even small objects like watches, they've got cogs and wheels in them. So without the wheel, we would have never become technologically advanced as we are now. And the example is that there are some civilizations which never discovered the wheel. For example, the Native American civilizations, the Aztecs and the Incas and the Mayas, they were very advanced, yet they did not have the concept of wheel. And because of lacking that integral technological advancement, they never reached the height of science and development which other civilizations did. Interestingly, there are toys, children toys with wheels and cogs among the Native Americans. So the Aztecs made children toys, but they never got that concept into daily life, and they never made carriages and carts, and they never made windmills and water mills and all that kind of stuff. Sub-Saharan Africa and Australia is another example. The Australian Aborigines and Sub-Saharan Africa, these civilizations also never discovered the wheel and never utilized it. And they always were lagging behind in development from the rest of Asia and Europe. So when you compare the European civilizations, the Chinese and the Asian civilizations, they advanced way ahead of all these other civilizations because they had the concept of wheel. Now, why did they not discover the wheel? And the answer is horses. Wheels were only discovered after human beings domesticated horses and they started riding horses. And with horses came the chariots. And the first people to use the chariots were the Assyrians. They were a big civilization in what is today Middle East and Syria. In fact, the name Syria comes from Assyria, which was an old civilization. In Arabic, they call them Ashur. And they still have tribes in the north of Syria which are direct descendants from the Assyrians. And then the Hittites and many other civilizations came and they were using the chariots. And that was a great technological leap. As great as air travel is in nowadays and discovery of the automobile. So that's the kind of technological leap we are talking about. And it only happened in civilizations who were already using horses. Human beings are unique in the sense that we have the ability to control all the other creatures around us. So each and every kind of animal or creature which is around us, we can control them. With animals, we do two types of control. One is called domestication, where we enslave them and we make them work for our own purpose. So their whole existence is for us, to serve us, like horses and cows and buffaloes and sheep and hen, all these animals. But there are wild animals which we cannot enslave and domesticate, yet we tame them. So you see people, they tame snakes and they tame lions and cheetahs. Any kind of animal, we are able to tame them to some extent and to subdue them. This is one of the greatest characteristics of the human race, and no other species, no other creature on this planet has ever been able to do that. And this capability, this knowledge and skill has only been given to the humans. Among this domestication process, one of the revolutionary things which happened was when humans, they started riding the animals. And it started with horses, and later on we were riding camels and we were riding elephants. But it all started with horses. Now, riding an animal is incredible. No animal would normally allow another animal to ride them and to use them as a vehicle. Yet human beings were able to do that, and starting with horses, that were wild creatures. The human-horse interaction goes back tens of thousands of years, but we were hunting horses for food. And then somewhere in the world, some human being domesticated the horse, became friend with them. You became friend with your own food. Horse was food. We were killing them and eating them for protein and meat. Yet someone very cleverly had the idea to befriend them, then subdue them, and then domesticate them, and then ride them. This is a revolutionary concept, unimaginable in the history of Earth. Over hundreds and thousands of millions of years, life has existed. There's never been such subduction of one species by another. And that drastically improved mobility. And from that mobility came technology and the wheel and all the other inventions with it. Where did it happen? Scientists have always thought that this happened in the Eurasian steppes about 6,000 years ago in the areas of Kazakhstan. But something interesting happened more recently. In around 2010, there was an Arab Badu by the name of Mutlaq ibn Gublan in the area of Arabia. It's southwest of Arabia. Area is called Najd, and there is a valley, and this valley is known as Al-Magar. So he, the Bedouin chap Mutlaq, he was digging for a pond. He wanted to make a water pond. They call it a birka in Arabic, to water his camels. And he found 300 different objects dating back to 9,000 years. Now, 9,000 years ago, Arabia was very green and fertile. There were waterfalls and rivers and streams and jungles. In fact, up to 7,000 years from now, it existed. Arabia was a very green place. And there's also a hadith of the Prophet which says towards the ends of time, when the planet Earth is going to go immense changes, Arabia would become green again. Now, the Prophet did not say Arabia would become green. He said it would become green again, lush green, fertile again, as it was in history. And at that time, 1400 years ago, people were surprised to hear it from the Prophet. They never thought Arabia was ever green. They always thought Arabia was a desert forever. And even 100 years ago, that was a concept. But now archaeological findings are telling us that no, 7,000 years ago, Arabia was a very green place. So 9,000 years old stuff found by Mutlaq ibn Gublan, and among them was a very heavy stone slab. This was 135 kilograms, like 300 pounds heavy, big stone slab. And it had the carving of a horse. And it was buried in the ground upright, like the horse stands. Interesting thing about this carving is that it was not just any horse. This horse had a bridle attached to it. Now, the bridle is the headgear that is used to control the horse. You know those buckled straps and a bit in the mouth of the horse and the reins attached to it? That whole contraption was in this stone figure. They had carved that contraption on the neck and head of the horse, showing that this horse had been domesticated. Nearby, There were some petroglyphs, which is like carving on stone. And that even showed a figure riding a horse. And this is revolutionary. People suddenly realized that 9,000 years from now, 9,000 years ago, it was the Arabs who had first time domesticated the horse. And Surah Al-Adiyat reminds the Arabs about that whole story, what happened when they had for the first time domesticated the horse and how they exploited this leap in technology. And inshallah, we'll talk in the next 5 ayat what happened when humans had domesticated the horse. But before we talk about Quran's version, let's talk about the non-Quran historical version. So what happened when humans first domesticated the horse? They started riding the horse and they came across other humans who did not know about it. So most recent example is when the Spanish, they conquered America, South America and Central America, especially the area of Mexico. The Native Americans had no concept about horses. Horses were introduced by the Spaniards into Americas. The Mustangs, they actually brought them from Spain, and the Spanish had those Mustangs from the Arabs. So basically the Mustang of America, it is not a native horse. It's a horse brought over from Andalusia, and it is a direct relative of the Arabian horse. The species or subspecies we call Arabian horse is very different from the North European horse. And that horse was introduced by the Spaniards. When the Aztec Native Americans saw the Spaniards riding the horse, they thought that the Spanish conquistadors and the cavalrymen, they were half human, half horse. When you see them from far away, you cannot tell the difference when you see the silhouette. And they also thought maybe it was a combined animal which sometimes split into two. The man would come off and then go back and become part of the horse. It was a crazy concept for them. They'd never seen a horse before, and they'd never seen a man riding a horse before. In ancient history, the same thing happened. When the first time the Greeks came across horse-riding invaders and attackers, they thought they were half human, half horse, and they gave them a name known as Centaur. Actually, in Greek language, they call them Centaurus. Now, Centaurus is a combination of two words, Ken and Taurus. Taurus means bull, and Ken means piercing the bull, like killing the bull. So you could say they were bull slayers. Now, it's very difficult to hunt a bull, but if you're riding a horse and you've got a bow and an arrow, or you've got a spear or a sword, you can easily hunt big prey. You can hunt bulls and buffaloes. Like in America, the whole population of buffaloes was exterminated by horse-riding Europeans. So when the Greek first saw these horse-riding people, they saw them hunting bulls and big animals, and they called them Centaurus. And later on, these people, they also started invading and attacking the Greeks. And the legends came of centaurs being very aggressive creatures, half man, half horse. They've got a bow and an arrow, and they're shooting at people and attacking them. Similar thing happened in Russia. When the Russians first saw the horse riders, again, they couldn't make up what they were. Because these riders, they would come early in the morning with the sun behind them. So the silhouette would be like half man, half horse. People would get scared. Then they would ride straight into the center of settlements, kill people, rob, take away the animals, take herds of animals and bulls away. And a lot of dust would be flying, and in that dust you would be confused, and people were so scared they wouldn't even retaliate, they wouldn't even attack back at them, thinking they were godlike creatures. In Russia, when this happened, they called them Polkan, half man, half horse. In India, the Indus Valley civilization, they were also shocked by these horse riders when they first saw them. So whenever the technology of horse riding went to any human tribe, they exploited it to empower the other tribes and to scare them and steal from them. So in the Indus River civilization, ancient cities which are like 4,000 to 5,000 years ago, you see these engravings and pictures made on stone seals and earthen seals of half man, half horse creatures. And they look like centaurs. And there are other people fighting with each other, and these centaurs are also present there. Either they're attacking or they're just seeing those fights or participating in them. In Mahabharata, which is a very old religious text of the Hindus, there's mention of a whole kingdom known as Kinnara kingdom in the Himalayas. And the Kinnara men were half man and half horse, and Kinnara women, called Kinnari, they were also like that. They were half horse and half woman. And they were vicious fighters, and they had bows and arrows, and they had swords and spears, and they used to attack. Later on, the Indians realized that these were not really half man and half horse. They were actually people riding horses. So the concept of Kinnara and Kinnari, the centaur female-male version, that changed to include a bit of a bird in it. So it became a man-horse bird. And finally, half man, half bird. So the whole thing was revised in the later text when people realized that riding a horse was a combination of two different species, man-horse interaction rather than half man, half horse. But even now, if you go back to the ancient text of Mahabharata and you look at the Kinnara kingdom, you will find stories of half man, half horse creatures. And there's another place you will find these interesting Kinnara or Kinnari creatures. If you go to Pakistan and you see the truck art, that's like big trucks, which are like long haul vehicles, they have paintings at the back and the sides. And in those paintings, you often see images of a woman who is half woman, half horse. So there's a neck and head of a woman wearing a crown, and very pretty and very appealing. And below the body is that of a horse or a bird. That is the ancient concept of Kinnara or Kinnari, which has still survived. And travelers especially wanted protection from these horse riding or half horse, half man creatures. So they used to carry these pictures of Kinnaras and Kinnaris to show that they had love and affection for them and they were worshipping them. So they would stay protected, so they wouldn't attack them. And even today, when the truckers are traveling, they have these paintings on their trucks for protection purposes. The one place in the world where you do not have legends and stories of centaurs or man-horse creature is the Arabian Peninsula. And the reason why? Because it's the Arabian Peninsula who started all these myths. It was the Arabs who started riding horses and confused everyone. And they took big advantage of it by raiding and attacking and looting. And other civilizations, Central Asians, the people in the Himalayan kingdoms, when they got the same technology from the Arabs, they also exploited it in the same way. So we've talked about the historical and the scientific archaeological perspective of it. Let's see what Allah has to say in Surah 100 and how does that correlate with the scientific findings that we have. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, ayah number 1, wal adiyat zabhan. Just 2 words, very simple. By the galloping, panting horses. Whenever Allah Ta'ala is using the word wa in the start of a surah, Allah Ta'ala is holding that thing as a witness. Allah is swearing by it and saying, I swear by the galloping, panting horses. Now, adiyat is a female version. So it is a feminine noun. So here we are talking about mares, female horses, not male horses. And female horses are faster and they have more endurance. And whenever people go for war or attack, they prefer to have a female horse rather than a male horse. The word adiyat comes from the word adi or adu. Adu means enemy and adi means running towards the enemy. So when you say wal adiyat, it means female horses or mares which are charging, running towards the enemy. And the word dabhan, which is translated as panting, is actually not just panting. It is puffing, blowing and panting of the horse with aggression. It comes from the word dabh, and dabh is used for wolf. So the way the wolf attacks, panting and rushing, that's how these female horses, when they are in attack mode, they are running and rushing. So now imagine these are female horses which are running like a wolf, panting in aggression, heading for attack against some unfortunate group of people. The second ayah says, فَالْمُورِيَاتِ قَدْحًا, striking sparks of fire. The word fa means a link with the previous ayah. So in this process of running, they are striking sparks of fire. Muriyat is to start a fire by striking two objects like stones, flint stones, or maybe dry branches. If you strike them against each other and create sparks and fire, that is known as Muriyat. And when the horses are running, they have these metal horseshoes under their feet. And those metal horseshoes, when they strike on stone and they strike on dry surface, they can give out sparks. Especially in the night, you can see them far off. They're running on a hard surface and you can see these sparks flying out from their feet. And qadha is a loud, violent gallop. So when you have got a loud sound of these horseshoes and hooves striking on the land, on the ground, that is known as qadha. So far we know that these are aggressive female mares which are charging towards someone, targeting someone, and they are going a long distance and they are violently running, so much so that there are sparks of fire coming out from their feet. And the third ayah says, فَالْمُغِيرَاتِ صُبْحًا, launching raids at dawn. The word ighara in Arabic is having an ambush, unexpected attack in a far off place. And it's usually for killing, pillaging and looting. You know, like the Viking raids? Now that would be an ighara. That's the typical example in English language. If you want to describe ighara, you have to say, think of the Viking raids. That is an ighara. So what Vikings were doing from far off, coming in ships, the Arabs were doing on horses. And the word subha is used here, which means they are attacking early in the morning. Why? Because early morning, you've got the sun behind you, and when the enemy sees you, they're confused. Remember, we said that historians have stated that people who were riding horses, they used to go to far off lands, to people who have never seen a man riding a horse before. And they used to confuse them. And when they used to stand with the sun behind them, they would appear as centaurs, half man, half horse. Now, what is the next thing to do? In ayah number 4, فَأَثَرْنَا بِهِ نَقْعًا, stirring up clouds of dust, or raising the dust in clouds. فَأَثَرْنَا means, again, linking with the previous process. It's all one continuum that God is describing. Asarna means to cause. Naqaha means dust, but naqaha also means confusion. The kind of confusion where people are shouting and there are loud voices and cries. So, فَأَثَرْنَا بِهِ نَقْعًا would mean that with this process of riding horses, they are creating a dust cloud and causing confusion. People are bewildered, perplexed, astonished, and there's a lot of shouting from the horse riders and from the people who are being attacked. And the fifth ayah, very important, فَوَسَطْنَا بِهِ جَمْعًا, and penetrating to the center of the gathering. Normally, when somebody raids or attacks, they try to do it from far away, attack the enemy and go back. But these horse riders, they were so confident that people would be scared of them and people would be bewildered because they're attacked in a far off land where people have never seen a man riding a horse, that they would go straight into the middle of it and kill people and loot and pillage and do whatever they wanted to, and people would be on the ground and they would be hiding or running into their houses and looking for cover, and they would go straight in with confidence, not being scared of anything. And ayah number 6, it summarizes it all. Innal insana li rabbihi lakanud. Surely, humankind is ungrateful to their Lord. Imagine, Allah has given us the ability to subdue, to control, to have a rule over the whole planet. We are not just subduing other creatures of Allah. We are subduing wind, water, sunlight, even the atom. We have windmills, we have solar panels, we have water mills, we have dams to generate electricity. We can break an atom and bring nuclear radiation and power out of it. And what do? We are ungrateful. We misuse our authority, just like those people who are riding horses and causing panic and fear in the hearts of people and taking advantage of that panic and fear. What the Spanish conquistadors did to the Native Americans, the Aztecs and other Native Americans, what the horse-riding Arabs did to their neighboring nations, what those riders from the steppes they did to the Greeks and to the Indians, and they exploited them and killed them and subdued them and ruled them and created a fear. The powerful overpowering and exploiting the powerless. That's not the purpose of power that Allah gave to us. It was for our benefit. It was for mutual benefit, and it was for the benefit of all the creatures, not to be exploited. But the sad fact is, Innal insana li rabbihi lakanud. Surely humankind is ungrateful to their Lord. Kanud also means to be disloyal and to be cut off and exceedingly ungrateful. And the word used here is Rabb. Like humans are the Lord of the animals and creatures they control, God is our Lord. Yet we rebel against Him, we are ungrateful to Him, we are not loyal to Him. And the creatures that we rule, God has given us the power to rule them and become their Lord. They are exceedingly humble and grateful to us. And we misuse them and we abuse them. And with their power, we abuse other creatures from our species and from many other species. And the 7th ayah is even more interesting. وَإِنَّهُ عَلَى ذَلِكَ لَشَهِيدٌ. And surely He Himself bears witness to it. So mankind, humans, themselves are a witness to it. And the word used here is shaheed, not shahid. Shahid means to bear witness, but shaheed means to be a constant witness, to be a non-stop, perpetual witness. So Allah is saying that as we go along with our misdeeds and we go along with our exploitation of people and power, we ourselves are witnessing it, and we are a witness on the day of judgment against ourselves. So what deeds we have done, how we have manipulated our power and how we have made other people suffer, we are a witness to it. And that suffering is a continuous evidence against us. On the day of judgment, when our records are presented, that is going to bear witness for all the actions we've done and all the wrongs we have done. But why do we do that? And ayah number 8 explains the thought process, the concept that we have in our mind which makes us do it. وَإِنَّهُ لَهُبِّ الْخَيْرِ لَشَدِيدٌ. And surely humankind is violent in their love for worldly wealth. Word by word, وَإِنَّهُ, for verily, لَهُبْ means for the love, la is for the purpose of, and hub is love. Love is defined as relentless pursuit of something that we desire and consider good for us. So we've got this great desire. And what is the desire for? Khair, lahubbul khair. Now khair is generally translated as good. But this is also a slang Arabic term for money, for worldly gains, especially for money. They call it khair. Wealth is called khair. Like nowadays, for money, we've got slang terms. We call it fortune. So fortune could be good fortune, could be good luck. But the word fortune is often used as a slang term for money. We call it green because currency notes are green. We call it the buck or the quid for the pound. And there are also other weird words like kaching. So all of these, they convey the thought of wealth and money. And in Arabic language, one of the slang words was khair, which means fortune, good. And the good stuff, what was the good stuff? Money. That was considered to be the good stuff. But I think this ayah is also telling us that it's not just money, but for any good, any benefit, we are exceedingly, violently pursuing it. And we'll go to extreme measures to get what is in our benefit, even at the cost of other people's happiness, wealth, or life. We'll deprive other people even of their basic needs and amenities, of the food they need to survive, just to accumulate more for ourselves. وَإِنَّهُ لَحُبِّ الْخَيْرِ لَشَدِيدٌ. We are very violent. We are extremists when it comes to looking after number one, that is yourself. When looking after your own personal gains, we don't care about the other people. Neither other human beings nor other creatures in this planet, not even the whole planet. We are willing to destroy the whole planet we're living on just for a few days of pleasure and a few days of hedonistic indulgence. And we don't care what the future would be for ourselves or our future generations. We are not concerned about it. And then Allah reminds us, أَفَلَا يَعْلَمُوا إِذَا بُؤْثِرَ مَا فِي الْقُبُورِ. Do they not know that when the contents of the graves will be spilled out? أَفَلَا يَعْلَمُوا. Do they not know? إِذَا, when. بُؤْثِرَ means to spill out, to empty something out, like pour out, like you pour water out of a jug. That is بُؤْثِرَ. مَا فِي الْقُبُورِ. مَا means whatever, and kubur is the graves. So whatever is in the graves, whether it's bodies or it's wealth buried with them. In ancient time, people even used to get buried with their wealth. I mean, if you come across any graves of the Scythian tribe in Central Asia, even in north of Afghanistan, because they rule a lot of these areas and invaded all the way down to India, you will find that in their ancient graves, they had their gold ornaments and wealth buried with them. The weapons were buried with them. Some people even got buried with their horses. They liked them so much that they got buried with the horses. And we all know about the pharaohs, how they were buried with immense amount of treasures. But Allah says all of them are going to be emptied. They are going to be poured out. Whatever is in the graves, whatever we take with us to our graves, whether it is our bodies only, which is most of the time, or any worldly gains that we had and we want to store them with us, they're all going to come out of the graves on the Day of Judgment. وَحُصِّلَ مَا فِي الصُّدُورِ. And all that is hidden in man's heart will be made known. The word hussila comes from the word tahsil, which means peeling off, to take away the skin and reveal what's inside. So when you have a fruit and you peel it off, like an orange or a banana, you take the peel off, you find what's inside. Similarly, if you have walnuts and you take away the shell, crack the shell, you reach the nut which is inside. So Allah is saying that on the Day of Judgment, whatever we've been hiding in our hearts, whatever excuses we had, whatever the real intentions were, they will all be made manifest. They will all come to clear. We'll find out exactly what we were doing, why we were doing, what was our motive behind it. Inna rabbahum bihim yawma izin lakhabir. The very last ayah. That on that day, their Lord will show that He was always fully aware of them. Inna means surely, without a doubt. Rabbahum means their Lord. Behim means regards to them, in fact, especially in regards to them. Yawma izin, on that day, lakhabir, being fully aware of them. Khabra means knowledge which comes from experience, and this refers to present and past knowledge only. And it's something which is expected. Now, Allah has all knowledge of what we are doing or what we are planning to do or what we are able to do in the future. But on that day, we will become aware that Allah is aware and has been always aware of everything which happened in the past and the present. And He's got all the information there. And then we will be held accountable. So Surah number 100, Al-ADIYAT, this is not just a simple surah. It's not just talking about horses only. It talks about horses, but also about the control, the unparalleled, unique control that Allah has given to human beings over all the planet, and how we misuse and abuse those powers that have been bestowed upon us, and how we are going to be held accountable for them one day. May Allah keep us on the right track and not make us exploit other people who are powerless or less powerful than us. And may Allah bestow His power upon us and make us use it sensibly and judicially, the way it's meant to be, for the welfare of not only ourselves, but all other creatures, including human beings and the whole planet. Ameen summa ameen. Inshallah, we'll meet again next week with another tafsir. Please remember everyone in your prayers. A special request to pray for those who are not in good health. May Allah give them shifa, quick recovery. Ameen summa ameen. And many thanks for everyone who has helped with this tafsir, especially Yasser Salim, who's uploading them. May Allah reward you and everyone else in this life and hereafter. Ameen summa ameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.